I never planned to kiss a stranger that night. I planned to smile, nod, and survive another evening where my future was discussed like a line item on a balance sheet. But plans have a way of collapsing when you finally realize you're suffocating. The engagement party was supposed to celebrate me and Julian Cross. Crystal glasses, polite laughter, and my parents glowing as if they had already secured their legacy. I stood there in a white dress that didn't feel like mine, listening to Julian speak with my father near the balcony doors. I wasn't meant to hear him. But I did. "She'll sign once the marriage is finalized," Julian said calmly. "The Loch Dominion will be under my control within a year. Not our. His." Something inside me went quiet. Not dramatic. Just empty. I realized in that moment that no one in that room cared what I wanted. I was an asset. A solution. Wait. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I walked out. The night air hit my face like permission. I didn't know where I was going until I saw him, leaning against the subway railing across the street. Dark jacket, worn boots, stubble that suggested he didn't answer to anyone's schedule. He looked tired but not broken. More like someone who had stepped out of the world on purpose. Julian's voice followed me outside. "Serafina." I didn't think. I crossed the street, grabbed the stranger by the front of his jacket and kissed him. It wasn't delicate. It wasn't planned. It was a choice made in a single breath. His body stiffened for half a second, then relaxed. His hand came up, steady at my waist, grounding me. The kiss deepened, not sloppy, not confused. Controlled. Intentional. I felt Julian stop behind me. The stranger pulled back just enough to look at me. His eyes were sharp, assessing but not unkind. Then he leaned in again, slower this time, like he knew exactly what he was doing. When he finally let go, he rested his forehead against mine and spoke softly, just loud enough. "You okay?" Julian left without another word. I stepped back, suddenly aware of what I'd done. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I shouldn't have." "It's fine," he said. His voice was calm. "Oh, you looked like you needed help." I laughed once, short and humorless. "I needed an escape." "Well," he said, glancing toward the party behind me, "that looked effective." We stood there for a moment, the city moving around us. I expected him to ask for money. He didn't. I expected judgment. There was none. "My name's Serafina," I said. "Rowan," he replied. "Nice to meet you under strange circumstances." I don't know why I told him about the arranged marriage. Maybe because he was a stranger. Maybe because he didn't look at me like I was valuable. He listened without interrupting, without pity. "Sounds like you're trapped," he said when I finished. "I am." He reached into his pocket and handed me a small phone. "Old. Simple. If you want to disappear for a night," he said, "call me." I should have walked away. I called him an hour later. He didn't take me to the streets. He took me to a building I had driven past 100 times without noticing. The elevator opened into a quiet, clean penthouse. No excess. No display. Just space. "This is where you live?" I asked. "For now." "You said you were homeless." "I said I didn't belong anywhere," he corrected. We talked. About nothing important and everything that was. He didn't ask about my money. I didn't ask about his past. The attraction was there immediately, not something growing slowly but something already awake. When he kissed me again it felt different. This time it was for us. I didn't feel owned. I didn't feel rescued. I felt chosen. The next morning I woke up in his bed and realized I wasn't afraid. Not out of consequences or regret. That scared me more than anything. That kiss was supposed to end everything. It was meant to shut a door, embarrass a man, and buy me a few hours of freedom. Instead, it pulled me deeper into a life I didn't understand yet. One where nothing was as simple as it looked, especially the man I had chosen to trust. I didn't go back home after that night. Not immediately. I told my parents I needed space, which was the closest I had ever come to telling them the truth without starting a war. They didn't argue. They never did when they thought silence would win in the end. I stayed with Rowan. Living with him wasn't dramatic. That surprised me. There were no grand gestures, no declarations meant to impress. Mornings were quiet. Coffee made the way he liked it, black and strong. He read the news on a tablet that never left his hand for long. Sometimes he asked my opinion about things that mattered, and it caught me off guard every time. He listened. Really listened. But the world didn't pause just because I had stepped out of it. The pressure followed me. Calls from Julian grew sharper, less charming. He stopped pretending this was about love. It was about control now, and he didn't like losing it. My father's voice sounded older every time we spoke. The company was bleeding, though no one would admit it outright. I started noticing things about Rowan I hadn't questioned before. The way people answered his calls immediately. The way he knew things before they appeared in the news. The way he never seemed surprised. One afternoon while he was in the shower, his tablet lit up on the counter. I wasn't snooping. At least that's what I told myself. The headline was enough. Vale Industries acquires majority stake in Lock Dominion Group. My chest tightened. I read it again, slower this time, hoping I'd misunderstood. I hadn't. When Rowan came out, towels slung low on his hips, I didn't ease into it. I didn't soften my voice. "You're buying my family's company," I said. He stopped walking. "Yes. That's it?" I asked. "Just yes." He met my eyes. "I won't insult you by pretending otherwise." So what was I? My voice cracked despite my effort. A distraction? A coincidence? "No," he said immediately. "You were the reason I stopped." I laughed, but it came out wrong. "You stopped after you already started the fire." "I started that process long before I met you," he said. "Your fiancé made sure of that." The word made me flinch. "Julian is manipulating both sides," Rowan continued. "He's been feeding information, creating pressure, positioning himself as the solution." "You expect me to believe this is all some business chess game?" I asked. "No," he said quietly. "I expect you to believe I wouldn't touch you if I planned to use you." I wanted to believe him. That was the worst part. Trust didn't come easily to me, but once it did, it hit hard. "You should have told me," I said. "I know." That night I didn't sleep. I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling, realizing how close I had come to trading one cage for another without even seeing the bars. The next morning, Julian showed up at my parents' house uninvited. He framed it as concern, as urgency, as love. He had documents ready. He always did. By the time I arrived, my father looked defeated. Julian smiled when he saw me. "You've been difficult to reach." "I'm not marrying you," I said. His smile didn't fade. "You don't have a choice." He was wrong. I walked away again, but this time I wasn't running blind. I went back to Rowan, and for the first time I asked him for the whole truth. He told me everything. About disappearing after a failed assassination attempt. About people who had smiled at him while planning his downfall. About choosing to live unseen so he could watch who moved when they thought he was gone. "I learned who people really are when they think you're nothing," he said. "And me?" I asked. "You kissed me when you thought I was nothing." That mattered more than I expected. Things escalated fast after that. Julian didn't like losing control. He stopped asking and started threatening. When that didn't work, he crossed a line he couldn't step back from. I was taken. Not violently. Carefully. Quietly. Like an inconvenience being moved out of the way. When I realized what was happening, fear settled in my chest, heavy and cold. Not panic. Panic wastes energy. This was worse. This was understanding exactly how much Julian thought he owned me. Rowan found me before the night ended. Not with chaos. With certainty. He walked into that room like it already belonged to him. Julian tried to speak. Tried to bargain. Rowan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. By morning, Julian's world collapsed under the weight of what he had hidden for years. When it was over, Rowan stood in front of me, the man I had first seen leaning against a subway railing, and the man everyone feared standing in the same place. "I won't decide for you," he said. "Ever." That was when I knew. Not because he was powerful. Because he gave me back my power without asking for it in return. And I chose him. I should have known things wouldn't just settle after Julian was gone. The world was louder now, but it didn't scare me. It was a different kind of chaos. One I could handle. One I wanted to handle. Phones rang. Lawyers demanded meetings. My parents asked questions they had never asked before. But for the first time I felt like I belonged in the middle of it, not trapped by it. Rowan didn't shield me. He stood beside me, quiet, steady, letting me speak and make choices. Not once did he overrule me. That mattered more than anything else. The first time we walked into a boardroom together, I felt it immediately. People stopped. Conversations paused. I wasn't invisible anymore. Men who had ignored me suddenly sized me up, trying to decide who I was now. Julian's absence hung over everything, a shadow that didn't matter anymore. I should have been nervous. That I felt sharp, focused, clear. They spoke in numbers and strategies about damage control, about moving forward as if the future had already been decided. Someone referred to me as Rowan's partner. I corrected them without hesitation. I'm Serafina Locke, I said. I'm here because this concerns me. Rowan didn't smile. He didn't interrupt. He watched me like he always had, steady, unwavering. As if he had known I would end up here all along. Later, when it was just the two of us, I asked him why he never tried to steer me, never tried to control me the way everyone else had. Because then it wouldn't be your choice, he said simply. That answer stayed with me. My parents struggled. Not because they had lost control, but because they had to face what their decisions had cost me. My mother cried quietly one evening, hands wrapped around a teacup. My father apologized without saying the word. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't neat, but it was honest. One night, after a long day that left my head spinning, we stood on the balcony. The city stretched below us, indifferent, alive. I could step back, Rowan said suddenly. If that's what you need. I turned to him. Why would you? Because loving someone doesn't mean holding them tighter, he said. It means being willing to loosen your grip. I didn't answer right away. I thought about the life that had been planned for me, the version of myself that existed only on paper. I thought about the night I kissed a stranger because I had nowhere else to go. I'm not asking you to step back, I said finally. I'm asking you to stand with me. His hand found mine warm and steady. Then that's where I'll be. Taking an active role in Vale Industries wasn't impulsive. It wasn't romantic. It was practical. I asked questions. I learned. I made mistakes. Rowan corrected me when I was wrong and backed me when I was right. There were arguments, real ones. Not dramatic, not cruel, just necessary. I had never argued with a man who didn't try to win. That changed everything. Weeks later, the announcement came. My name appeared beside Rowan's, not as an accessory, not as a wife, but as a partner. The headlines asked if I was intimidated. I wasn't. I had never felt more like myself. That night, after the world went quiet, we sat on the living room floor, backs against the couch, sharing a bottle of wine we'd forgotten to open weeks ago. Do you ever regret it? I asked. Letting me into your world? Rowan thought for a moment. I regret the years I spent thinking power meant distance, he said. You proved me wrong. I leaned my head against his shoulder. I didn't fall for you because of who you are on paper. I know, he said. That's why I fell for you. There was no grand declaration. No dramatic ending. We didn't need one. Our love was built in moments like this. Quiet, real, chosen. Sometimes I think about that night outside the engagement party. About how close I came to accepting a life that wasn't mine. About how a single reckless decision changed everything. I kissed a stranger to escape a cage. I didn't know I was stepping into my own future. I stayed. Not because he was powerful. Not because he was untouchable. Because he never tried to cage me. And every day after that I chose him.